Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:01 on August 5th, 2026. All council is here and accounted for, so let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. So we are on to number 3, presentations and proclamations. Our chief will be introducing our new assistant chief of police. Ron?
Actually, I have 2 officers to introduce, our new assistant chief and our newest patrol officer. So I'm going to ask those 2 to step forward right now. Officer Bailey, Assistant Chief McDonald, there he is. And go ahead and bring your families up. If I could have you 2 gentlemen over here, I'm going to swear you in. We got everybody here now? Nope, almost. If you would raise your right hand, please. I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of police officer for the state of Texas and the city of Garden Ridge, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of this state and of the city. So help me God. Outstanding. Thank you, gentlemen. We have some family members that want to present their badges to them. So, Marcy, please. This is John's wife, Marcy. You've probably done this one. Yeah. Try not to make him bleed. And I believe Bailey's brother would like to present him his badge. Don't run off. Let's get a picture up here. And yeah, everybody come on up. Everybody come on up. Come on up. Come on up. Don't make me. Yes. Yeah. Family can come up here. Get on up here. And right it here. Let's go. Who else we got? Who else we got? Who else do you want up here? Okay, John. Let's trade. So, just for a little brief synopsis, so Officer Bailey comes to us out of the academy, graduated just a few weeks ago, and from what I'm told, he was valedictorian of his class. So we're proud to have him as a new member of our family. And Assistant Chief McDonald, we just stole him from New Braunfels. And so he's got 31 years. He went up through the ranks over in New Braunfels up to deputy chief and decided he wanted a change and picked our nice little community to come over here. And We're very excited to have him, so we welcome him aboard as well. Gentlemen, come on up. Now it's time to do the formal introductions. This is Mayor Swint. Hi. Nice to meet you again. And then I'm going to skip over here and scoot around. Okay. You know these young ladies, Councilman Smith. Oh, sorry. Councilman Euler. Councilwoman Carlson. Councilman. Thank you for joining us. Councilman Reyes. Thank you, guys. Yes, I met John about 11 years ago. We had the pleasure of attending Northwestern University Command Staff College together, and that was an interesting 17 weeks or so. It was not fun, but we made it, and now we're back together again, so we're really looking forward to it, and we think the community is going to enjoy him. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chief. We're so excited to have them both. Welcome. We will move on to item number 4, citizen comment period. We've got one person listed. That's Mary Fox. If you could state your name and address, and you've got 3 minutes to speak, and of course, we're not able to respond.
Yes, good evening. My name is Mary Fox. I live at 2224 Sur Avenue in New Braunfels, Texas, 78132. So good evening, Mayor Swint and City Council members. Like I said, my name is Mary Fox, and I live in New Braunfels, not in Garden Ridge, but I'm here tonight because I am a candidate for House District 73. And as much as I would love to campaign here, I am not here for that. I want to say this. I want to introduce myself, let you know who I am, and then I want to serve this community. As a retired educator and school principal for 31 years, I'm a strong advocate for our schools. I believe Davenport High School, Danville Middle School, and Garden Ridge Elementary are exceptional schools, but they bear the consequences of this mantra that our public schools are failing. These schools are not failing, and we need to support them. As a 45-year resident of Comal County, I believe strongly in giving our local county officials, I know that's different from municipality, but giving them the tools to protect our property and to have a voice in when, where, and how development happens, which I believe is a conversation for tonight, I'm understanding, so that it's not at the expense of our natural resources. So like I said, I'm not here to campaign, I'm not here to ask anything of you, but rather to introduce myself, to say thank you for your service. There is no money in this, I understand that, and yet you keep coming back, and to invite you to conversation with me next Thursday over in the community center, 6 o'clock in the Blue Bonnet Room next Thursday. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you. We can move on to item number 5, consent agenda. These items may be acted upon in a single motion. No separate discussion or action on these items will be held unless requested by a council member. Public comment on these items may be heard during citizens' participation. However, that does not mean the item will be considered outside the consent agenda. Anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? In that case, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
In a second?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? None opposed? All right. It's approved. We can move on to number 6, staff reports. 6.1 is city manager report. Ryan?
Mayor and council, excuse me, let me pull the mic up a little closer. Mayor and council, under our recognition employee years of service, we have 2 this month. Wendy Bippert, our Assistant Library Director at 3 years. And Michelle Hinosa, our Administrative Coordinator, for 6 years. So we thank him for us. Acknowledgement of the volunteer contributions are, I'm sorry. Thank you, Chief. Acknowledgement of volunteer contribution hours. Our water bill, 8 hours, and library had a total of 219 hours for the month. I'd like to read some appreciation letters we received. I want to express my appreciation to Cindy Simmons, Stanley George, and Officer Brown for all the help we received while putting together the 50th anniversary Garden Ridge Bike Parade. They were so helpful, cooperative. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that they are valuable employees. The trip down memory lane was worth all the preparation. Sincerely, Marcia Kern. We have another written compliment here. Lisa Connolly expressed her appreciation for Garden Ridge Police Officer Heidi Carney for the compassion and kindness she showed during a difficult time. Lisa wrote that her husband, Mike Connolly, a volunteer for the Garden Ridge Alumni Association, passed away recently. While he was receiving hospice, he experienced a fall and emergency assistance. Officer Carney responded along with the ambulance personnel and remained at the home while emergency response was to complete to ensure safe and supported. She also noted Officer Carney went above and beyond by taking the time to provide reassurance during an emotional situation. Followed Mike's passing. Officer Carney returned home the next day with flowers and expressed her condolences. So, thank you. Sorry, I missed point 2. She wanted to recognize the compassion and dedication, stating that her actions were a reflection of the professionalism and care demonstrated by the Garden Ridge Police Department. She expressed her gratitude and asked her appreciation to be shared with Officer Carney and the department, which it was. So, thank you, Chief. Well, in the packet, Council, do you have anything, any question in department reports or updates? Also a reminder, we have First Friday, the watermelon drop, 5:30 to 7:30 at Paul Davis Park. And just as far as any general updates, sorry, Marissa. All right, thank you. Anything related to permits and usage community center in the agenda packet? I just wanted to let you all know that staff submitted the grant for the Texas Water Board development, and last week we applied for the funding to assist with the construction of the Sauls Interconnect project. So I'd like to thank Robin and Hank because they did majority of the work on the application process in order to get this submitted last week. Just some notes, we're working on a few items, hope to present to council next month. We'll bring forward a communication plan for the city. We'll also bring forward a right-of-way ordinance and some changes to the personnel policy manual. And we are targeting October to try to award a bid for construction for the trail projects at Paul Davis Park. And just as a follow-up, citizens be heard, as I mentioned I would do that. Sharon Stripling discussed code enforcement, and so obviously on this agenda we're taking care of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. On to 6.2, City Engineer Project Report. Hank?
Mayor and Council, I also wanted to applaud Robin for getting the infrastructure grant in. It was a big effort. She got it in while budget was happening, so just doubly applauding her. I also wanted to provide a little bit of an update on the water rate study. We had planned for that to go to Water Commission on October, but it's conflicting with election time, so we're not going to be able to have Water Commission at that time. We're still kind of figuring out how that's going to shake into the schedule, likely November, but we'll work with staff on that and get it scheduled as soon as we can. Other than that, I'm open to any questions you might have.
No questions, Council? Thank you, Hank.
Thanks.
On to 7, approvals and authorization. The following items were for discussion, consideration, and action. 7.1, public hearing and possible action on the development application by Scott Felder Homes LLC on behalf of Bradley K. and Tamara L. Miller for a zoning change, rezoning from agricultural and agricultural homestead district to residential district for a 20.16 acre tract of land conveyed to Bradley K. Miller and Tamara Miller by deed recorded in document number 2003060222245 of the official public records of Comal County, Texas, out of the Vincent McKelly survey, number 114, abstract 383, and further located at 8474 Beinsel Lane in the city of Garden Ridge, Comal County, Texas. Ryan, you can give us a review?
Mayor and Council, this item is a request to rezone approximately 20.16 acres at 8474 Beinsel Lane from agriculture and agricultural homestead to residential. The applicant is Scott Felder's Home, as you mentioned, Mayor. Property owners Bradley and Tamara Miller. The proposed rezoning would allow the development of 20 residential estate lots with an average lot size approximately 3/4 of an acre. The proposed home are expected to range from 2,600 to 4,800 square feet, estimated 759,000 to $1 million. The requested residential estate zoning is consistent with the city's land use plan, which identifies the area for low-density residential development. The proposal aligns with the city's goals of preserving Garden Ridge low-density state-style residential character while allowing for orderly and planned growth. It also transitioned from agriculture zoning to residential that is consistent in the city's comprehensive master plan for long-term development. Tonight's action is solely focused on the rezoning. If approved, future development will still be subject to additional review and approval processes before construction can occur. Planning and zoning heard this rezoning and approved it 3-1 and recommended to you all, City Council. Real quick, I wanted to give you an overview of this process. In front of you is a kind of a quick flow chart that shows here what this
Can I
process.
jump in real quick?
Sorry.
Let me jump in real quick. Ryan and I talked about putting this flow chart together because there were a lot of questions at the planning and zoning meeting. And I think this chart will help answer those questions because it lays out where everything is addressed, everything that was mentioned, or most everything
Yeah.
that was mentioned in P&Z. It lays out when that happens and how it happens. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Ryan.
No problem, Mayor. As you can see, when you look at this, it's zoning, plat, infrastructure, site plan, building permits, inspection, certificates, occupancy. So, and essentially, just for more informational education, zoning determines whether the proposed land use is allowed. If rezoning is required, then P&Z Commission makes a recommendation, and then ultimately the City Council that's in front of you tonight. So that's the steps on zoning. Go ahead, Cindy. The plat process, it establishes the legal lots, easements, and right-of-ways. The plat is reviewed by staff, then back to the planning and zoning, and then back to City Council if it meets all city requirements through that process. So as you go down, you look, plat's recorded, and then infrastructure review and construction. So the infrastructure review ensures roads, drainage, water, sewer improvements are properly designed and constructed. And then that is the development process that we follow, especially with our third-party developer. And as you go down through city inspections, then the site plan review. This verifies that it's compliance with zoning and development standards, including landscaping, parking, lighting, signage, tree preservation, and traffic requirements. The next step, building and permits, ensures construction plans comply with all applicable building and fire codes. And then inspection occurs throughout the construction to verify compliance with the approved plans that were reviewed and adopted codes. And then finally, the certificates of occupancy is issued only after all inspections are successfully completed, allowing the building to be occupied. So if zoning is approved, every development must still complete the platting, engineering, permit, and inspection processes before construction and occupancy can even occur. So this is the process that these home builders will follow here in Garden Ridge. But again, tonight, it's about zoning and about the land use only. The plat will be back in front of you. This will be under review for the development process to make sure all of those are met from the codes that we have, the new subdivision ordinance, from that standpoint. So, and no completion of this project being tonight, it's simply the rezoning of the land use. So, I hope that was helpful. Thank you, Council.
Yes, thank you. I think that was very helpful. Let's go on and open the public hearing at 6:22. If you'd like to speak, come forward. Please state your name and address. And remember, we cannot respond to what you say. Anyone?
And after you speak, please sign in at the form at the table behind you.
Hello, my name is Mary Armstrong. I live at 8447 Benzel Lane, directly across the street from where the proposed building is to happen. And I do have a few concerns. I think I have some the concerns that a lot of the people do in the area. Number one is the drainage issue. You keep taking away more land that is normal for drainage, and that is loss of habitat that's naturally drained onto. That increases drainage to happen worse in paved areas and developed areas. Habitat for wildlife. We have a colony, bat cave, hence the street name. It's the largest bat colony of Mexican free-tail bats in the world, and one of the largest concentration of mammals in the world. And I feel like, yes, I know it's probably about 5 miles away from there, maybe, but we just keep adding more and more into we keep encroaching more and more into their habitat, thereby it may eventually, I don't know the numbers, but it may eventually actually impact bat colony and all the other wildlife in the area. Increase in value for property taxes due to the new homes being luxury homes, up to $1 million. My appraisals already increased 61% in 5 years. And I know you're going to say, well, the taxes from these new homes will help ease the burden, but I doubt that. I think that it would increase our property values. I think that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Richard Ure. I live just adjacent to the property, so our boundaries touch. First off, I just want to express appreciation for allowing this to come here and express our kind of sour apple feelings or sentiments. Mostly, I'm not opposed to the subdivision, but I'm going to read a short snip of what I feel. I'm mainly opposed to it because of stormwater drainage and flooding. Binzile Lane runs perpendicular to natural landscape swells in the area. Our property sits at the bottom of these swells, while the proposed development site is located on top, immediately adjacent to us. Water flows directly toward our property and those of our neighbors. Over the past 3 to 5 years, the woods development down the street, which is actually behind the neighbors across the street from us, were developed, and we experienced significantly greater runoff in the last number of years. We've lived there for going on 10 years, and for the first 5 years, we had no runoff issues. The last 3 to 5 years have been different. We've lost more than 12 inches of topsoil on the front part of the property since it was developed. We've had erosion that's unearthing buried electrical conduits, and similar erosion issues on the neighbor behind us who's got water flowing under one of his structures, Earl Coran. These problems do not exist prior to recent upstream development. Adding 20 more homes at the top of the swell will predictably worsen runoff volume and velocity onto the property and neighboring lots, including those owned by other neighbors, Richard Amendi and Wes Collecti. We ask the commission and this council, who will be responsible for the increased costs of fences, dirt work, structure repairs, and other remediation if this development proceeds and causes additional damage. Number 2, has a detailed stormwater drainage and downstream impact study been completed that fully accounts for cumulative effects from existing and proposed development? There are a host of solutions that might rectify these things. I believe that from the structure the council's going to propose that those problems be pushed off until a later time. And again, my question is who pays for that in the event there's huge issues? I don't think you've heard at least one other neighbor, I've talked to 3 or 4 who have questions about the stormwater and drainage issues. Again, I'm not opposed to more homes. Everyone wants a home, and Garden Ridge is a wonderful place to live, a beautiful place. It will clearly affect property taxes, but I'm not sure we can stop that, so that's not my argument. I am significantly and seriously worried about the drainage effect on our home, of course, and neighboring homes. So I would recommend that we not proceed until that has been rectified. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you, there you go. Anyone else?
Ruby Montez Wills. I live at 8467 Benziel Lane. I'm going to read this because I'm going to try to stay in that 3-minute time frame. I was here on July 8th for the planning and zoning meeting, along with multiple other residents who are here again today. And we all had questions and concerns about this development, and it sounds like you're trying to answer them here, but I still have concerns. I'm here to readdress those concerns, and I hope that you'll actually listen to the people and the residents of Garden Ridge, unlike the zoning committee, who 3-1 still supported it despite having all of these questions and concerns and us not having any answers provided that day. I'll start by sharing the personal impact, which is that the proposed development will be directly in front of my home and the neighbor's home here as well. It's directly right in, the entrance is going to be directly in front of my driveway and my neighbor's driveway. So we're talking about 3 driveways directly across from one another on a very busy road. Not only will this be an inconvenience, but it will create a very dangerous intersection with 3 different intersections, 3 different entrances right across from one another. With all the construction vehicles and the equipment using that single entrance, my neighbor and I will be subject to a direct nightmare for years as they build, and also once it's completed with all the increased traffic. Next, I'm going to share at a high level the long-term impacts that I feel that this proposed development, which are going to far outweigh the need for tax revenue, in my opinion. This includes the many concerns about the drainage, just as we've mentioned here, the frequent power outages that we have already in the city, the increased traffic, air pollution, destruction of many trees and wildlife, light pollution, which is a disruption to the nearby bat colony, as she mentioned, additional construction vehicles who will use only Benziel Lane and Bat Cave Road to get to this area, years of noise, blasting, dust, and most important, the impact to our limited water supply with the 20 homes and their mini swimming pools and I'm sure their sprinkler systems for their immaculate $1 million home yards. We've had recent rain and we're still in a stage 2 drought restriction, so 20 homes I cannot see will help the situation. Has the city done a traffic study? If you have, you'll know that Bat Cave and Benziel Lane have already experienced a huge influx in traffic. Benziel Lane is in terrible condition with no center line, deteriorated edges on the road, and it makes the road very narrow with no sidewalks. It took 3 months for the city to repair the edges after I reported them as dangerous, and they're still not really fixed. The years of continued construction for this development are going to make matters only worse for those driving down this main road of Garden Ridge, including emergency personnel who will only have one single entrance to this proposed development. And lastly, I want to share that residents, including myself, are fully aware of your desire for tax revenue, but I want to remind you that you've already built 2 other developments on Benziel Lane for this revenue, and a church is set to be built on the corner of Benziel Lane. This town is currently suffering from the other nearby developments down Bat Cave Road, outside the city limits. What else, aside from building homes, has the city done to help with tax revenue? Have you taken the time to invest in our existing dwellings? We have 1 gas station in this city on the busiest corner that I've ever seen, and I don't see anyone taking the time to ensure that that station is brought up to the city standards. There's currently 4 huge potholes to enter that gas station with a very large hill, and it's a very uninviting gas station. That is a prime opportunity for revenue, Building more homes and congesting our city sounds like the easiest way to bring in tax revenue, but it doesn't mean that it's the right way. As your city leaders, I hope that you find it in your hearts to listen to the people and find other ways. Give us a break from all of this dirt, dust, traffic, and help maintain the peaceful living that we all miss about Garden Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor Swint and the City Council. My name is Malcolm French. I live at 20519 Cedar Cavern, and it's in Oak Meadow Estates, which borders this 20 acres that they're considering developing. My house sits on land that was originally owned by the Benzile family and was sold to a developer, just like Scott Felder wants to develop this 20-acre tract. So I benefited from what you're considering now, but that was in the early 2000s. Since then, my 30-home community has been built, and the 100-home woods of Garden Ridge that was mentioned at Bat Cave and Benzile Road have been built. I wanted to ask you today, when has there been enough development in Garden Ridge? The function of local government is to manage public services and community needs. Current zoning requires lots to be no less than 3/4 of an acre, so this has limited the number of homes that can be built within the city limits, but should more be done to protect the remaining free range land within the city limits. One of Mayor Swint's 2025 campaign focus areas was community protection, focused heavily on local resident advocacy, including addressing environmental and proximity concerns regarding nearby industrial and quarry operations impacting the city. Isn't this threat similar with unabated growth? A couple things in that area on Benzile Lane that has been mentioned is drivers' navigation apps are now taking them off I-35 south, down 3009 left on 2252, so there is heavy traffic on 2252. Traffic coming in FM 3009 from west of us, navigation apps are having them turn on South Schoenthal, left on Bat Cave, right on Benzile, so the traffic on Benzile has increased dramatically, and that's exactly where this 20-home community is going to go. Drivers leaving Garden Ridge on either Bat Cave or Marbach Lane cannot get out of the community. On Monday, I drove down Benzile Road to FM 2252 at 4 p.m., and there were 20 cars waiting to get out of Marbach Lane. The proposed Scott Felder community of 20 homes will increase this congestion on Benzile, a rural 2-lane roadway. As was mentioned, there's no center line. That's in addition to the 100 homes in the woods of Garden Ridge, the 30 homes in my community. If you drive out Bat Cave, you run into Heimer Estates, which is 70 homes, and across the road is Enchanted Bluff, which is 150 homes. And a lot of those drivers will be coming down Bat Cave, and as I mentioned, turning right on Benzile Road. Another thing about life in Garden Ridge right now is water. How many more homes can our city water supply support? And all those homes that I mentioned, including the ones outside the city limits, use Garden Ridge water. All of you campaigned on a promise to try to keep Garden Ridge the way it has been in the past. Unrestrained growth that exceeds Garden Ridge's ability to support its citizens will just make it more difficult to live here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Janet Lynn Welch, 8329 Benzile Lane. In 1978, my husband and I purchased 3 acres from the Benzile farm. At that time, there were 14 residents on our road. We were the 15th home to be built. In the 47 years that I have lived at that residence, there have been an additional subdivision of 100+ homes, a community of 30+ homes, and with entries onto the Benzile Road. I estimate there are currently 179 residents and the proposal to add an additional 20 homes would bring that to just under 200 homes on that road that have access to driving on that road. There are times that I've had to wait 10 to 20 vehicles to go outside of my driveway just to turn left to go towards 2252 or Bat Cave. I would like to see a traffic study be conducted coming southbound down Bat Cave Road just before the intersection of Benzile and westbound on Benzile to see just how much traffic cuts through on our road to bypass 2252 traffic. And it's not because of the construction, as detouring and cutting through has been going on and has been increasing long before any construction began. I don't live within the city limits of Garden Ridge, but I wonder how the infrastructure can withstand an additional 20 homes of this size. Most assuredly, each home will have an irrigation system which will pull from the Edwards Aquifer, and most likely 2 to 3 additional vehicles on our roadway every day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, everybody. Kim Shimmick, 8223 Shining Elk in Garden Ridge, Texas. So I am up here tonight to request that you do not allow the zoning change that is being proposed this evening. So I'll keep it to that point on the topic because it does sound like we will have opportunities to discuss all of the remaining discussion points that we've asked, and there's been a lot of really good research done tonight. So we have some good information to go research after you make your decision. But one other thing that I did want to mention, if we were able to avoid the zoning change, part of that provides opportunity to some of the other residents in Garden Ridge right now that are really trying hard to sell their properties. And I actually have a handful of friends that are in that grouping that they just can't seem to sell their properties. Right now, just my quick ChatGPT search shows about 60 active listings. So that probably doesn't include any of the homes that are being put up and taken down, just because it really doesn't look good when you're in the system for a large number of days. So they're changing realtors to try to kind of maneuver the market with these open houses. And right now, it also says that on average, the homes are on sale for about 151 days, which is a significant increase of about 53 days a year ago. So we've got a pretty significant increase in the number of days that the homes are up for sale, not being able to be sold, and then kind of being taken off market. People are reevaluating. I didn't do research on rentals, but I know a handful of people have talked to me about how they've made some adjustments to their plans, and they'll just be renting those homes in Garden Ridge because they really can't sell them right now. So I would be interested to know as well how many properties can't sell in the areas right around Garden Ridge, which don't count as inside the city limits, but I think they create a lot of inability for home residents to be able to sell because of those areas. So the zoning, I think if we stick with just that topic, I would be interested to know, how much space do we continue to intend to keep as agriculture and actually use for agricultural purposes. So if we go ahead and just let go of these 20 acres, is it not really a big deal? We have all these other areas, or does it really actually affect kind of the vision of the city? So thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Hi, my name is Tamara Miller, and I own the property at 8474 Benzel Lane. My husband and I purchased the property in 2003, and then we built our custom home in 2005. We then watched our neighboring property get developed into residential estate lots in 2006, and then the one across the street in 2016. We've had multiple animals on our property, being consistent with the agricultural use, from goats, chickens, cattle, and very noisy donkeys. One thing about agricultural use is being surrounded by homes is not very conducive to agricultural use. Our cattle got spooked by barking dogs from our neighbors, and they can go through a wire fence pretty easily, and that becomes a dangerous situation. Goats are also very naughty and tend to get out of fenced closures, and so it's just, agricultural, it sounds great, but on 20 acres, that's not very realistic. I'm an engineer by trade, and so we were looking at how to develop the property, and I've gone through the code, and there are a lot of options for permitted uses within the current zoning, but I didn't think that our neighbors would actually appreciate that. So we looked at doing residential consistent with our neighbors. And I was going to do it myself, but then I decided to look at a couple of home builders that this is kind of their niche market and can do it more efficiently and effectively. And Scott Felder is who we ended up going with. One of the first things we did is we met with the city manager and the city engineer to talk about the Unified Development Code and the requirements to do this kind of development. Obviously, your flow chart was fantastic, by the way, from the rezoning to all of the different requirements, including drainage, trees, traffic impact analysis, and so forth. So I know that the city has governing documents in place, and so I respectfully request that you approve the zoning tonight.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Swint. My name is Bruce Stanfill. I live at 8602 Turner Ridge, so I'm in the back corner right next to the detention funnel that funnels drainage rather than detains it. But I'll take a little contrarian view here that, you know, as a property owner, if I owned property, I wouldn't like there to be restrictions on whether I'm allowed to sell it as long as it's consistent with rules that have been put in place, which this seems to be. So I'm not opposed to the development at all. Just would ask that these concerns that have been expressed be taken into account during the development, particularly the traffic on Binsel, and then the drainage. For instance, the retention pond where I'm next to funnels right into the back corner of the 20 acres there, and then on to the 85 acres that are behind us. It doesn't slow down. Even in the torrential rains we had recently, it was no more than 2 hours before it emptied again. I would have expected it to kind of fill up and take more time than that to drain out. But then the last comment is having the agricultural use there and the goats. I just want to say my daughter Brenda in 2008-09, she loved saving the goats that got their heads stuck in the fence there. So appreciate that for the memories that were created for her. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Last call. Any other takers? Okay, then.
I do have
Yeah, I
written
was gonna ask.
comments that I will read. The first one is from Brian and Gwen Cobb, 20523 Cedar Cavern. We are writing to formally express our opposition to the proposed rezoning of the property at 8474 Benzow Lane from agricultural to residential. Since our property shares a direct rear boundary with the subject site, we are deeply concerned about the negative impacts this development will have on our property, neighborhood, and the broader community. The city's master plan explicitly prioritizes preserving our low-density rural hill country character. However, significant development has already altered the area. Since we built our home in 2018, an approximate 150-acre, 110 home site subdivision was developed across Benzow Lane. A 2.826-acre church was approved at Benzow Lane and Bat Cave Road, and 2 large developments have emerged further down Bat Cave Road. While some of these developments are outside city limits, their residents heavily utilize city roads, specifically Benzow Lane and Bat Cave Road. Our semi-rural roadways are not engineered to safely support this current volume of traffic, let alone an increase. Benzow Lane provides the only ingress and egress for the majority of these properties, and the narrow infrastructure lacks the capacity for safe traffic flow. What was once a quiet country road, safe for walking your dog, jogging, and cycling, is now a major thoroughfare with speeding drivers and minimal law enforcement presence. Adding an estimated 20 homes will result in roughly 190 to 200 additional daily vehicle trips, further increasing the risk of accidents. Replacing 20 acres of open, absorbent agricultural soil with impervious residential services introduces serious environmental risks. The development would threaten the delicate Edwards Aquifer recharge zone, increase localized stormwater runoff, and worsen the heat island effect. Comal County already faces persistent groundwater strains, and adding more residential utility demands will place an unsustainable burden on our shared local water tables and existing municipal infrastructure. Additionally, even partially clearing these 20 acres will significantly alter native ecosystems by breaking up natural habitat corridors. Wildlife will be displaced from their bedding and foraging grounds, while native Texas songbirds, owls, and migratory species will lose nesting cavities, canopy shelter, and established migration paths. Clear cutting for roads, utilities, and building paths directly destroys established live oaks, cedar elms, and native brush. Furthermore, clearing with heavy machinery can inadvertently spark oak wilt infections that spread to surrounding properties, and removing native turf allows invasive weeds to thrive and spread. We left the city specifically to escape the nuisances of urban density. However, the addition of another subdivision behind us would leave us entirely surrounded by buildings, concrete, traffic, and noise. We chose our specific lot for the aesthetic view and the relaxing sounds of nature. We did not intend to spend our retirement years looking at others' backyards, fences, and playscapes. As elected officials, your primary responsibility is to uphold the master plan and reflect the will of the residents. We request that you take our protest into consideration and vote against this rezoning application. Angela Friesenhahn, 8049 Benzile Lane. I would like to address some concerns about the proposed 20-house neighborhood on Benzile Lane. Number one, additional traffic. I live off Benzile Lane and it already is difficult to leave my driveway most days. Yes, the speed limit is 35 miles per hour, but most people do not follow this. Number two, drainage to properties towards Marbach Lane. If this 20-house development happens, the land will be cleared, roads will be built, and the rainwater will no longer have area to soak into the ground. This will impact every property heading towards Marbach on the same side as this development. I firsthand am affected by drainage issues from the development of the woods of Garden Ridge, and my field has massive drainage ditches that will cost thousands to repair because of poor drainage development plans. On paper, drainage areas can seem like they will work. Once in place, it is a whole different story. Number three, water availability. This is probably a high concern for most people. Yes, 20 houses might not seem like a big deal, but the truth is everywhere is already hurting for water. Garden Ridge is a highly sought after area. It once was a quiet place to live. Benzile Lane once was an enjoyable drive. Not anymore. The part of Benzile Lane that is in the city of Garden Ridge is poorly maintained as it currently sits. What will you do once this development comes in? The road will only get worse with more traffic and construction vehicles. What would these 20 houses do for the city? The city of Garden Ridge currently offers no exemption for their homeowners that have the homestead exemption, no help on tax reduction. What benefit does the city get from these 20 houses? More tax revenue? What do we people who currently live here get from these 20 houses? Nothing. Benzile Lane is named after my husband's grandfather, Dan Benzile. Dan Benzile also happens to be the man who sold Mr. and Mrs. Miller this 20-acre property back in 2003 that they are now wanting to develop. He's since passed away, but I guarantee you he would hate to see more of this land he knew his whole life turn into a neighborhood. Tegan Cornez, 8230 Shining Elk. My question regarding the city's approval of another subdivision on Benzile Lane is, where will the additional water supply come from? We are already under stage 2 water restrictions with no end in sight, which raises concerns about whether our current water resources can support further development. I am also concerned about our electrical infrastructure. Will the increased demand from another subdivision place an additional burden on the power grid and affect the reliability of service for existing residents? Before approving new developments, I believe it is important for the city to address these infrastructure concerns and explain how it plans to meet the increased demand for essential resources while maintaining reliable service for current and future residents. Our household is not in favor of another subdivision. Lisa Richter, 9241 Garden Ridge Drive. I would like to express my concern over the proposed new development on Benzile Lane. The two things I am most concerned about are the destruction of green space / wildlife habitat and availability of water supply. We need to be cognizant of light pollution as the area wants to be developed towards the Bracken Cave Reserve, as well as other wildlife in the area being driven into the neighborhoods by loss of habitat. We also need to consider whether or not we have the water to supply 20 new families, lawns, probable pools, etc. We are regularly under water restrictions, and adding 20 new homes at once can be significant. Secondary concerns would be volume of traffic and noise pollution during construction and upon completion. Neighboring residents are already being concerned over drainage and runoff, our overall infrastructure capability to handle the new demands, safety for the residents with a single entrance/exit point, and an already sluggish sales market for existing homes, which will adversely affect our property values. Please consider these points as well as others raised by concerned citizens when voting on this proposal. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Marissa. So I am going to close the public hearing at 6:52. We do have Chair of our Planning and Zoning Commission here to talk about his the P&Z's recommendation. If you want to come forward, Karim.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Karim Jackman, Chair of Planning and Zoning. Planning and Zoning met, and like our City Manager Ryan mentioned, it was approved for recommendation, 3-1 vote for City Council to take up. So, any questions?
Any questions for Chairman Jacobin? Okay, thank you.
All right,
We
thank you.
also have Marcus from Scott Felder Homes that wanted to bring a presentation.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me see if I can make this work. Hi, good evening. My name is Marcus Moreno. I'm with Scott Felder Homes. Appreciate the opportunity to present this project to you. Right now, we're calling it High Grove. It's on about 20 acres on Benzel Lane. Okay. So I think everybody's familiar. I'm assuming you guys can see this. It's right on Benzel Lane. It's across from the woods and next to a subdivision. This was the map that we submitted to the city. Sorry, it's got a mind of its own. We sent out notices through the city to homeowners that were affected per the requirements. We're only planning about 20 estate homes. That's really all that'll fit on the site. And we're asking for the property to be rezoned from AG to RE. Kind of as already has been talked about by the city manager, it's we didn't approach this as trying to add density to it. We looked at the future land use plan that was prepared for the property, and we're trying to just maintain the character. I mean, I drove through. I've lived here in San Antonio for 23 years, and I mean, Garden Ridge has always been, that community with large lots. Wonderful homes. It's really coveted by builders because of the property values. And frankly, I mean, everyone kind of does want to live here. I mean, it's hard to buy a home in Garden Ridge. And so we met with Ms. Miller. We talked about the project. She asked us if we were able to, maintain what the city wanted to be used for the property, and that is our goal. That is the intention on rezoning it to low density. This is the preliminary land plan. It's not final. As already been discussed, this is kind of just the first step in the process, and then once we're able to have the property rezoned, then we'll start the drainage study and the traffic study and all the requirements that are required to build a subdivision in the city of Garden Ridge. But generally, I mean, this is the layout. Some of the lots will be a minimum of 3/4 of an acre, but there are some lots that are an acre, acre and a half, 2 acres. And this is not final. It's just the concept plan that we've been working with and meeting with the city manager and his staff to just discuss it. As already has been discussed, our price target will be about $759,000 to $1 million, and we'll start from 2,600 feet and probably go up to 4,800 square feet. These are some pictures of houses we build on 3/4 to 1 acre lots. Several of these homes are up in the Leander area. You know, we're building a community next to Havenwood and South New Braunfels right now that we call West Ridge, that are 1 acre lots as well. And so we really pride ourselves on building, you know, estate homes and providing to that clientele. A little bit about Scott Felder Homes. I mean, we're a private home builder. We've been Home Builder of the Year 21 times. We have about 18 communities in Austin. We have about 20 communities in San Antonio. We really work hard to provide our home buyers with, you know, great homes that are livable. We're constantly changing them with new trends that are coming out architecturally, from the exterior to the interior. We take pride in them, you know, have high standards of construction, clean job sites. I mean, just all the things that, you know, will make our home buyers proud to buy a Scott Felder Homes, because reputation is really everything. You know, just in closing, you know, we just tried to keep the property as was intended, which, you know, with the future land use plan, which a lot of cities say, you know, these properties are agriculture, you know, because there's no zoning on them, and sometimes they're annexed, and so they're put into agricultural uses, but their future land use is like, okay, we plan on this being commercial at some point, or we plan on this being, you know, senior housing. And so this property was identified to be a state, which is what all we're here in asking for that to be approved today. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions, council?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you for being here today. We hear a lot of good concerns that are brought up by the constituents, and I sympathize with them, and I can understand where they're coming from. So what would be, on some of the issues that they've brought up, it looks like based on this flow chart that Ryan put together, which is a really good flow chart, if there's an issue of some of these things, like the drainage, for instance, right? Do we stop to address them and fix this before we move forward, or we don't just move forward with it if there's a problem with the drainage, right? And I don't know if you can answer this, but I do know I can understand some of the concerns, and this is why I wanted to ask you as the builder, what is the recourse on if you do discover a drainage issue as you're building out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the current environment that we're in, I mean, I think everyone knows. I mean, the last 2 years, the amount of rainfall we've received has just been, you know, it's like it's Texas. I mean, either it doesn't rain for 10 years, and then all of a sudden we've gotten 2 years of extensive rain. And so, you know, the engineers, they study these, they study the creeks. I mean, the things that we were seeing in some of the cities in San Antonio as well, yeah, there was some flooding, and there were some areas that, you know, people weren't planning on them being flooded, and they still flooded. But all those maps are constantly updated. I'm not an engineer, but our engineer is Pape Dawson Engineering. I mean, they've been designing subdivisions in the Metroplex for, I don't know, I'd be guessing, but 40, 50 years. I mean, they've been here for a very long time. And so that information will be studied. You know, we're required per the code to not increase the amount of drainage that's coming off of the subdivision. And if anything, you know, we are required to hold it. So there's currently, I don't know if this is a pointer or not, I don't want to screw it up. But if you can kind of look behind the homes in the corner, like all that land in the back is held out as a pond. No, it's on the other corner, sorry. No, the very back corner. Yes, there. So that will be a detention pond. It'll be sized in accordance with you know, the requirements to hold the water in that location, and then it's let off the same way that it's currently being released from the property. So all the streets will drain to that. The property is actually not over the recharge zone, it's over the contributing zone. So it will depend on what's called, I think, a CZP on how that pond is required. You know, all that is really checked by the city engineer, and, you know, he's the one that really holds the Pape Dawson engineer accountable to make sure that that's designed correctly. You know, if we need to change the road configuration, or if we need to even decrease a home, we've already, you know, and a lot of this has already been done in this land plan to position the pond in this location. You know, the subdivision next door actually has a pond as well that I believe has been made into a small little pocket park as well. So most of the time that's required. You know, as far as like tree clearing, you know, you obviously have to clear the right of way to put the road in. You know, we try not to clear as little trees as possible. You know, usually it just depends on when the homeowner comes in, you know, what house they select, where the pad's gonna be. From our perspective, we try to maximize the pad for the evaluation of what we're gonna mitigate. But then we try to save trees. You know, you move the house to the left or the right, front or back, because homeowners ultimately, you know, there's a lot of trees out here, and they want as many trees on their property as they can get. So traffic, you know, I think is one of the items that's been brought up tonight. You know, if the property requires a traffic study, we'll prepare the traffic study. You know, I think this road is already being studied, you know, because, you know, it is more of a rural road. And if something needs to be done, then, you know, it'll be addressed during the subdivision process.
So it sounds like the answer then to that was that you would address drainage issues if you see it. And what about the issues with, somebody brought up I saw an email as well as what was read about oak wilt. Do y'all know, when y'all are knocking down trees and breaking down trees, do y'all know the protocol for that? Or would that be something that the city could explain to y'all to make sure we don't have that issue when y'all are doing that? Because that was another thing that was brought up by constituents that I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mayor, if I may, this is about rezoning, zoning. We can't get off topic too far. We need to stay. This is either a yay or nay on the rezone, period.
Gotcha. Jim?
Are you done?
Yeah, I guess I am.
3 quick questions. The first one is for Mrs. Miller and Marcus. Is the sale of the property contingent upon rezoning? Meaning, I believe you couldn't execute unless it was rezoned. Is that correct?
We're a home builder, so yeah, absolutely. I mean, our intention is to build homes on it.
Sure.
And so we're not an agricultural use.
Okay, so Ms. Miller, the sale has not yet been executed. It's pending city's decision on rezoning. Is that correct?
I don't want to get into a lot of contractual stuff, but I still own the property, yes.
Okay, you still own the property. All right, second question is for the city attorney. Given that if the city does not rezone in accordance with the request, and in view of the low-density residential indication on the master land use plan, are we, the city of Garden Ridge, exposing ourselves to litigation for standing in the way of a potential sale? Is that something we should be aware of?
Councilman, yes. What I have seen and what I've reviewed, they have done everything appropriately to be rezoned. So legally, there's no way to really stop them from being rezoned, legally.
Okay.
You know, this is a decision that council gets to make, unfortunately. And basically, they have done everything that's been asked of them. They've done jumped through every hoop that we've asked of them to be rezoned.
Okay.
And that's why, you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission agreed that they should be, you know, should be kicked up to y'all. And so here we are.
Okay, thank you. Final question was for the utilities forum, and I reached out previously. Many citizens have expressed concerns with regard to water, and I share those concerns, but I reached out to our subject matter expert to ask specifically, is a 20-home development something that our water company needs to be concerned about, and we need to be concerned about as city council. So I'll ask you to go ahead and answer that question as you did for me via email earlier.
Yes, sir. As I responded, yes, we can accommodate 20 new homes. We are concerned, but we can do it. In the past, we've, like in the wintertime, our water sales are very low. Our water consumption is very low. And in the summertime, with the wells that we have right now and how we rotate them, yes, we have enough water to sustain.
Okay, I'm just gonna.
All the questions I had.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo our city attorney that we need to keep this really narrow and focused on just rezoning. Does anybody have any more questions for Marcus? Could we let him go back to his seat?
Mayor, I will just provide input to Councilman Reyes in speaking to, if you recall, housing or development that's done in Garden Ridge 5, 10, 15 years ago were under a previous ordinance. We've since then updated our subdivision ordinance. It's been strengthened. If you recall, last month or the month before, we adopted the Public Works Specification Manual. There's further drainer requirements that they're gonna have to follow now moving forward in Garden Ridge, which will all be reviewed by the city engineer. But if anything, we have a stronger subdivision ordinance and now a Public Works Specification Manual for a developer like this to follow. So, thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate everybody's comments and concerns. More council discussion. I'll tell you, having spoken with our attorney about this, we have to make hard decisions, and we have to make decisions that protect the city. And it very much sounds as if we denied this rezoning, that we would expose the city to potential litigation. The Millers have a right to the highest, best potential use of their property, as long as that property, the rezoning, reflects the characteristics of where that development is happening. If they were going to propose a gas station, we could easily say no to that that's not the characteristic of this community. The future zoning plan doesn't call for that. It doesn't make sense for Garden Ridge. But in a case like this, it's another development within a larger, residential area in Garden Ridge. So, and again, if we're looking, we're just talking about the rezoning. All of these other issues get addressed down the line. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we sort of reverse engineer this, if the council said we can't rezone this, or we're not going to rezone this because we think there's too much traffic, that would, again, expose us to a lawsuit.
Yes, it would, and that's not a legal,
Right.
valid reason. You
Right.
could say no, but I believe it would get us sued.
Right.
And so that's something that will come with development, traffic studies. There's a lot more, I say hoops to jump through, well, this is just the first one of many. And that Scott Felder Homes will have to do to make sure that they comply with our master plan ordinance. So this is just the first step, but
Yeah,
legally,
so-
we're kinda, there's nothing that I've seen to where you could actually say no to this and not get sued. So I think we're saying that this is, they are allowed to do this, the rezone, they're allowed to do it.
By law, they are
They are.
allowed to do this. And again, going back to sort of the reverse engineering, we couldn't say you can't do this because of traffic impact. We couldn't say because of drainage issues. We don't know the answer to these things yet. We couldn't say because of wildlife. Again, the Millers have a right, to use their property as they see fit, ultimately, if it aligns with the characteristics of where they're developing. So that's just my 2 cents. Anybody else? Comments from council, please?
I see all sides of this. I mean, who are we to tell her how to, what to do with her property? At the same time, you build a house and you got this nice view in the backyard, and then all of a sudden there's gonna be houses behind you. I get it. I understand the frustration on both sides. So it's a tough decision for us. It's tough, but it has to come across our table here, so the dais here.
I would say I wholeheartedly agree with the Millers being able to maximize the value of their property. And I would hope that as we go through this process, they will continue to listen to the concerns of the people. But as far as telling somebody that they can't do something with their property, I don't know about that.
Mr. French sent us all a letter, which was very well written with his concerns, and one thing that he mentioned was, has the city considered purchasing the property for use as a green space or a park? To address that specifically, I'd say, if this is a 20-acre property that's probably north of $2 million, that unfortunately would involve the city in taking on more debt to do that, and I don't know that we're in a position to do that, especially since we put a lot of money recently into Paul Davis Park for the benefit of our citizens. But I thought that issue should be addressed because I thought it was a good point to make and maybe not a bad idea, but I don't know that it's within our budget to do such a thing, and thought that needed to be said.
Brian?
Yes, ma'am. And, and I know what Dan's saying as far as about what we need to focus on. I just wanted to make reference to, I can empathize with what the concerns are, but I get it. Looking at this, I see why the planning and zoning voted 3-1. And so, I mean, we're in a situation where legally, it's something that, we have our hands tied on. So, but again, that doesn't take away from me wanting to bring up the concerns of the constituents. So, and I don't apologize for that. So, and that's all I had to say. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Jim, got anything? Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing is that we can all empathize with the concerns, or legitimate concerns, but at this stage in the game, we are just looking at the rezoning portion and what legally we can and cannot do. So if there are no further comments?
Mayor, 1.2 is, in talking about the street and the infrastructure of the street, we do have some restricted funds that would be eligible for improving buy and sell once this development is in place. I wouldn't recommend doing anything to improve it right now because heavy machinery, equipment, but after, we do have dollars associated with the ability to improve the infrastructure of that street after the development is complete.
Okay, any other comments? Then can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation to rezone the property at 8474 Benzel Lane, approximately a 20.16 acre owned by the Miller family, from AG to RE.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. We will move on to item 7.3, ordinance number 22-082026, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas. 7.2. Oh, you're right, sorry. I got a lot of scribbles on my paper. I just went right past. 7.2, ordinance number 18-082026, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, establishing regulations for the control and care of animals in the City of Garden Ridge, establishing related service fees, providing a penalty for violations of this ordinance, providing a cumulative and savings clause, providing for severability, and declaring an effective date. Ryan?
Mayor and Council, this item is proposed amendment to the city's animal ordinance to reduce the required stray animal hold period from 14 to 5 days. The current 14-day hold period was adopted back in 2018 to provide additional time for pet owners who had been out of town or otherwise unaware that their pet had been impounded. Prior to that change, when the hold period was 3 days, there was only 2 known instances which an owner attempted to reclaim a pet after the holding period had expired. Since the extending hold period of 14 days, staff has not identified any similar cases since then, indicating that the additional 9 days would have not resulted in more pets being reclaimed. State law requires the city to hold stray animals for the locally established holding period before they can be spayed or neutered, adopted, or transferred to a rescue or no-kill organization. Reducing the hold period to 5 days strikes a balance between providing owners a reasonable opportunity to reclaim their pets while allowing unclaimed animals to move more quickly into the permanent homes. Shorter holding period and improved shelter capacity, reduce overcrowding, decrease the amount of staff time resources spent for the animals awaiting disposition, allow adoption and rescue transfers to occur sooner, improving outcome for the animals. In addition to this ordinance amendment, the Public Works Department and Animal Services are implementing several operational improvements to strengthen the facility. I just wanted to mention we're in the process of developing a standard operating procedure for animal intake and outtake processes, prepare a scope of work for improving the bays, finalizing a volunteer handbook to better support and guide shelter volunteers. These operational improvements and proposed ordinances amendment are intended to improve efficiency, enhance animal care, increase opportunities for adoption and rescue placement, and strengthen the community engagement for this process. So as a recommendation, we are requesting 14 days to 5 days to be amended for this ordinance.
Any council discussion? No? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance number 18-082026, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, establishing regulations for the control and care of animals in the City of Garden Ridge, establishing related service fees, providing a penalty for violations of this ordinance, providing a cumulative and savings clause, providing for severability, and declaring an effective date.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any more council discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. The ayes have it. Thank you. Now, on to 7.3. Ordinance number 22-082026, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Ridge, Texas, regulating traffic on streets, roads, and highways within the City of Garden Ridge by establishing stop sign locations and placement of traffic control devices, establishing prima facie speed limits and placement of traffic control devices, establishing through truck traffic regulations and placement of traffic control devices, establishing no parking zones, regulating and requiring permits for certain assemblages and processions, providing a penalty, providing for severability, and declaring an effective date. Ryan?
Mayor and Council, just a quick overview from last month. I know that Councilman Reyes was out, but last month the City Council was briefed on the findings of the Old Nacogdoches Road feasibility study. Study was initiated after it was identified that the city-owned portion of Old Nacogdoches Road as one of the roadways requiring rehabilitation due to having one of the lowest PCI scores, which is the Pavement Condition Index. In October 25, the city had Tri-Hydro move forward to evaluate the roadway, rehabilitation options, and provide planning level cost estimates. So what they did was they evaluated the existing pavement, subsurface, geotech, projected traffic loading, potential rehabilitation alternatives. Because of the nearby quarry operations and a significant number of Class 9 5-axle trucks operating near the legal load limits, the study was used conservative traffic assumptions in this case. Based on the pavement analysis, projected truck traffic, geotechnical information, and cost estimates, Tri-Hydro recommended full pavement reconstruction of the city-owned portion of Old Naco Road to provide a 20-year life service. The estimated cost for full reconstruction just of the Old Naco Road within the city limits was $2 to $3 million, depending on the level of reconstruction. Due to the size of this investment, the city would likely need to consider debt financing or other funding options. Essentially, we'd have to take out debt to rehabilitate the road. As an alternative, the city could consider restricting through truck traffic on this portion of Old Naco Road and implementing a lower cost rehabilitation process such as a milling overlay for right now. So it's not necessarily a temporary Band-Aid, but we can go in and do a mill and overlay to improve the road for normal automobiles, right? The trucks would be too heavy in this case. The city has previously restricted truck traffic on this roadway. This would also, to reduce pavement deterioration further, extend the roadway's life, limit impacts from heavy commercial truck traffic. So that's kind of an overview of where we're at in this case. The ordinance 22 before City Council, revisions to update the city's truck traffic regulations. The proposed changes would be removing section 4A3 on page 5, which previously restricted through truck traffic on the Old Nacogdoches Road from FM 22 to the northern city limits, and then updating Annex A traffic control dice locations on page 12 by adding the 2 rows, FM 22 3009 through truck traffic only table to ensure consistency with the ordinance changes. These revisions align with the ordinance with the city's current approach to managing heavy truck traffic and preserving roadway infrastructure. So we put this forward in front of council's review to decide or determine if, you know, the option is reconstruction. You see the cost, you see the process. It's probably taking out COs, certificates of obligations, to pay for reconstruction debt, or the idea right now would limit that truck traffic to further deteriorate the road, do something as a mill and overlay that might cost us $300,000 or $400,000 in this case, to make the road more improved for just traffic in general.
Just a few comments. Added a little more knowledge since then. Ryan and I reached out to AMPO. They have a freight study that they've been working on. And just, you know, we want to be good neighbors. We want to know, we want to let people know, you know, if we do this through truck traffic section, give them just an idea that if we do this, how is it going to impact the areas around us? So we had a discussion with AMPO. Certainly my pitch has been and remains that we need some kind of haul road or a truck route to keep these trucks off of the same roads as passenger vehicles. Expressed that concern to him. Also spoke with Judge Hoyt with Comal County, because obviously that road feeds into that 2250 Old Naco feeds into Comal County, and it would divert some traffic, you know, down their roads. You know, they didn't have any issues with that. They understood the situation. Judge Hoyt has been in conversation with Captain Alvarado with the DPS, and they certainly, DPS recognizes that we have a problem down here, and they intend to do another kind of 2-week task force, and they had some suggestions of some additional things that we could do. But I mean, the problem is recognized, and I guess I don't have the appetite to spend taxpayer money to bring that road up to a standard for heavy trucks. You know, it's a lot of money. We're reverting back to something that we had in place before. And, you know, I think it's reasonable to do a mill and overlay to accommodate passenger vehicles.
I know it was discussed the last time we talked about this, but remind me, for everybody's memory, the mill and overlay has a shelf life of?
I would probably defer to Hank on this one, but typically a mill and overlay is like 5 to 7 years. A simple overlay is probably 3 to 5 years. That's even less of a cost. That's like about a 1-inch overlay. Mill and overlay takes it down a couple inches, but reconstruction is rebuilding the actual road. Go ahead, Hank, sorry.
Yeah, so it's all a function of how much loading you can get over the lifetime of a road. So a mill and overlay would likely be designed for a lot less loading. That 3 or 4 million ESAL, that's the equivalent single axle loading. You can take that and put it over that 4 million. It's whenever 4 million cars drive over it in that area, basically. So that, if you do a mill and overlay, that might be 1 million. We didn't do that study, but it would be a lot less beating that road could take.
Question really for Chief, if you had any enforcement concerns if we go forward with this. We're talking about no through truck traffic on Old Naco Road, the southern end of the Heidelberg Quarry, and those vehicles from the businesses east of the city limits of Garden Ridge trying to join 2252. I mean, is there any concerns on your part for trying to enforce this?
Concerns, no. Enforcing it won't be difficult. Yeah, it's out on the corner. It's a pretty straightforward. However, understand that our ordinance does allow drop-off and pickup of commercial vehicles within the city limits. So anything going into Heidelberg is legal. This should restrict anything coming from Lone Star Asphalt on Old Naco. There's also a Lone Star on Coyote Run, along with another quarry on Coyote Run. I've already spoke to Lone Star, and they are aware of what's going on, and so that would then cause their trucks to be diverted and go out 482. So it should, even with the ordinance in place that allows local delivery and pickup, it should reduce things tremendously. We as officers can enforce the standard ordinances and standard traffic laws. However, we are not by law allowed to get into CVE enforcement of commercial vehicles and weights and all that thing. We have to lean on DPS, who has apparently been quite cooperative lately.
Do you think we need to do more in terms of notifying those businesses to the east of the city limits that, hey guys, we're not going to let through traffic here on Old Naco Road. The road simply can't handle it.
And that will be done. I'll actually go make contact with the plant managers should the ordinance pass. And I'll go out and make personal contact with them and let them know what's coming and what needs to be done and adjusted.
Do we need any upgraded signage to get people's attention as soon as we?
Yes, we will need signs.
Okay.
I have a company that I've used for the larger than normal no-through truck signs that we use in other locations. However, putting some of them I want to put into Comal County, so I will have to do some paperwork and get with their engineering department, and that has to be proposed to the commissioners and approved and all that, so that we can place some signs further down by Coyote Run to prevent them from turning this way and having no place to turn around.
Right.
So, but since that's not in our city, it will have to be approved by the county.
Thank you, sir.
I did mention that to the county engineer, Robert Boyd, in a road improvements discussion we were having, and he mentioned that we had an MO.
We have an MOU already, and I don't know if they can just add to it.
Yeah.
Because we've got some at Back Cave and 3009 that say no through truck traffic ahead to warn those trucks so that they don't get down onto our section over there.
Okay, so we'd have something to work with there.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to add to that or how they do that in their county business.
I don't either. Okay, thank you. Council, Kelly, you had something?
Yes, so, all right, so this is a little bit out there, but what is the likelihood of these guys pitching in on something like this? These concrete companies, the only thing that's tearing up these roads, we know what they are, right? It's concrete companies, concrete batch plants, and the quarry, right? So my big concern is, so we push them off that piece of 2252. So where are those trucks going to go? 482?
Well, that's not actually 2252. That's Old Nacogdoches.
Old Naco, yeah, sorry.
We cannot restrict 2252 as a state highway.
Right. I mean,
So,
Old
so,
Naco, yeah.
Yes, so those trucks that we restrict off Old Nacogdoches will then be limited to go out of Coyote Run toward 482, and then can then go up to 2252 or 35.
Okay. I wish
They
we
just
knew.
won't
I
come
wish we knew
down.
how many would come back down this way.
I'm sorry?
I wish we knew roughly what amount would come right back by the middle school.
No way of knowing.
That's my big concern. I mean, it's because you've got a ton of traffic in the morning for somebody who drives out there a lot. There's a ton of traffic, and all those concrete, they're mixing and they're going at the same time that the kids are getting, they're on their way to school, right? Parents, buses. So if we push them back that way, or is that going to double the traffic that goes by that middle school in the morning? I wish there was a way to know.
I have no idea, honestly.
But to go back to my first question, I mean,
Well,
they're
I mean,
the
it
ones
depends.
that have created the damage, and that's,
Right,
and
and
would they
we've
be
had
willing to
that-
chip in if they know that, we don't get cut off from this road?
We've had that discussion with Heidelberg, and Heidelberg claimed that they, minimal usage of that road, 5 to 6%, that they would be willing to chip in. But in my opinion, it's beyond the road repair. It's limiting truck traffic coming into our city. As far as the school goes, it just depends on where the trucks are headed. This will primarily impact Anderson, Columbia, and they've got other routes that are possibly quicker than going 482, and it's all about speed with these trucks. It's all about getting to the next location as fast as they can. There are 3-hour school zones around all of the schools over there. They're 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. And, further, again, I've had these discussions with Comal County and AMBO and DPS. Those are their roads. They have more money. They have more ways to enforce truck traffic than we do, And frankly, Comal County can do their own no-through truck traffic. So, I mean, the pressure becomes, we apply the pressure where the people who maintain or, own that road. So, I mean, that's my thoughts there. We can't, we can't manage anything other than what's in our city. We can make some predictions. We could do a really expensive, Hank has spoken about this before, kind of traffic study that would cost thousands of dollars, but I mean, it depends what the end goal is. I think it is to try and reduce truck traffic coming through the city. I mean, I get complaints on a weekly basis about close calls with the trucks.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. Every day.
But my question is, are they going to come around 482 and then just come back down 2252 anyway?
It
and come
just
through our
depends. I
city?
mean, I have sat down and
'Cause that's-
mapped this with Steve Minus, who is our
Right.
Precinct 2 elect commissioner, and looked at, mapped out how many miles it is to here, how many miles it is to this, this entrance onto I-35. And again, it would be hard to predict without a traffic, a larger traffic study. But there are other options than coming down 482, especially when there are extended school zone hours.
Yeah.
So.
I know, unfortunately, the school zones are only, a few hundred meters beyond the school on each side. And you know the turn I'm talking about, right? You're coming up 2252 and you take that hard left.
Correct, and that is
And-
also one of the roads that is under discussion with Comal County about improvements. They held a workshop over here not too long ago talking about the projects that were going to be addressed in Precinct 2.
Yeah.
And that's one of them.
Yeah, because I mean, just that turn alone is unsafe, completely unsafe, so. Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, they wrecked the roads. It's not our residents going down that road.
Other
So-
comments?
Well, the other hard part of it, and we've talked about this, is the businesses to the east of town use that road, but we get no tax revenue from them, so they're not on the hook at all to help us maintain the road that they use all the time. And, to get them to pitch in, good luck. I don't think that'll work.
I can say that Heidelberg has promised for how many years to pitch in, Chief? 10 years?
That talk's been going on, I think, before I was even here.
Right. They've been making that claim, and we went to the
When it was
length to
Hanson
get.
and prior to that.
Yeah, we went and did a, $30,000 feasibility study so we could present to them what needed to be done. And we were told that their usage of the road was minimal. You know, we've discussed this with them. We discussed this with them at the last quarry study group. So I'm just not hopeful.
I guess I would say I don't know how much longer we can wait for them to pitch in with the condition of the road. I think that restricting the through truck traffic in the long run benefits the city and is the most cost-effective way at this time to maintain the roads. I would say that in the future, if by this putting pressure on the truck companies to find another thoroughway, that if they want to come to the table and pitch in for the maintenance and repair of the roads at that time, maybe that's something that we can come back to the table and say. But at this time, I feel like this is the most cost-effective way at this moment. It's the right time and the right moment to make this decision as no through traffic.
Brian, Jim, any thoughts? No?
No, I just think that, just echoing what they're saying as well, and what you're saying, that, yeah, I think this is the best thing that we can do right now for the situation that we're experiencing. So, thank you.
Just a quick follow-up. If we approve this ordinance, is this with immediate effect? Meaning, would we be putting up signs in the not-distant future?
What's the timeline on that, Chief?
Well, according to what I discussed with Marissa earlier, the 14th would be the earliest it could go into effect based on the publications we have to make in the newspaper. But it's probably going to take longer than that to get signs produced, get poles put up. I don't know how long the county's going to take to allow us to put them into their area. We can get them up at our city limits pretty quick, but I don't know what their turnaround time is and their process is. I'm trying to remember the last time I contacted him on the 3009 issue and Batcave, and it was not an extended period of time. It was just a few weeks. So I wouldn't think that this would take more than a month or so to come into full fruition of everything that needs to be in place.
Okay, any other comments? Nope. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance number 22082026 to reestablish prior restrictions related to through truck traffic on the city-owned portion of Old Nacogdoches Road.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. The ayes have it. Thank you. On to 7.4, request from Buckley Powder Company for a partial exemption permit to conduct blasting activities at Heidelberg Materials, Servtex Quarry, for the period of October 1st, 2026 through September 30th, 2027, and a set annual permit fee. Ryan?
Mayor and Council, this is the annual renewal for the Buckley Powder Company's partial exemption permit. It has operated under this permit for multiple years, I think 15, 20 years here, that they've come through the city of Garden Ridge for this permit. It's scheduled to expire on September 30th, 26. The request for council is to approve a new permit covering the period October 1st, 2026 through September 30th, 27. The permit authorizes blasting activities in accordance with the City of Garden Ridge Ordinance Number 34, as well as all applicable local, state, and federal regulations. We've reviewed the application, determined that it's submitted here for your review and approval. As part of the renewal process, the City Council is also required to establish this permit for the upcoming fiscal year. They're paying a permit fee of $33,026. Staff recommends maintaining the same fee for 27. The permit fee is intended to recover city's costs associated with administrating 34, including oversight, legal services, engineering, consultant support. Staff recommends approval of this permit and adoption of the 27 permit fee related to the amount of $33,026.
Any discussion? No? Can I get a motion?
I have one question,
go on.
actually, on this one. For this, the permit fee didn't change, but it seems like with all the inflation and everything like that, our administration fees probably should have increased. Any reason why the permit fee didn't change from 26 to 27? Did our costs really not increase?
I don't know from that standpoint. This was last year, and I think what we've used for like consultants and anything that's been administrative or legal, it's kind of been the same as the previous year for a cost related. I'm trying to remember, I think it was a little higher previous years, so it's actually been reduced from that standpoint. I think it might have been higher, and I wasn't here during the quarry committees, because that took more time for staff work, time for legal and those kind of things. So I thought it was at those times a little higher at that amount. So essentially, we just kept it the same from last year. We can always review it next year as we go through their permit process to see if it needs to be raised or remain the same next year.
Okay. I think that's a decent answer, but I do think we need to look at this and make sure that it's fair and reasonable considering all the costs that have been increasing administratively.
Yes, sir, we can look at that for sure.
Aren't we pretty greatly in excess of what the standard fee is?
Yeah, I think that's, essentially, Buckley's paying this, and I believe Heidelberg pays Buckley for the amount of the fee required for them to do the blasting in this sense. So,
Any further discussion? Can I get a motion?
So just motion for partial exemption permit to conduct blasting activities at Heidelberg Materials Surtex Quarry for the period of October 1st, 2026 to September 30th, 2027, and set annual permit fee.
Can I get a second? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed, the ayes have it. Let's move on to 7.5, interlocal agreement with the City of Selma for code enforcement services. Ryan?
Mayor and Council, this item for consideration is an interlocal with the City of Selma, City of Garden Ridge for shared code enforcement services. The agreement is intended to provide both communities with reliable code enforcement services while making efficient use of public resources. The city budgeted for this last year, actually to find a part-time code officer. We had trouble finding a part-time position. I approached the City of Selma, asked them if they're interested in partnering. They already have an existing officer who's a retired police officer who's certified. Geographically, they're right down the street, so it made sense to approach them about this shared services. Essentially, it's trying to be resourceful. As a result, this partnership would allow both cities to share a single qualified code enforcement officer. The City of Selma Council reviewed and approved this agreement last month at their city council meeting. Under the agreement, the code enforcement officer performed duties of both cities, building and fire safety standards, dilapidated unsafe structures, sign regulations, subdivision zoning requirements, other code enforcement responsibilities assigned by city administration. The agreement serves a straightforward cost and sharing agreement for 70% to be funded by Selma and 30% by the City of Garden Ridge. Essentially, we've already had this budgeted last year, and then it's again budgeted in the proposed budget that we'll talk about later tonight. This arrangement allows for both cities to share the cost of a full-time professional while ensuring each community receives dedicated code enforcement services. The agreement is for 1 year. We have a 30 days written notice if either one of the cities want to not continue contractually. From a fiscal perspective, the agreement provides a cost-effective approach for delivering this code enforcement, access to, like I said, a professional code enforcement. Selma receives reimbursement for a portion of the cost. Funding for each city share is available with their adopted budgets. At this point, I would recommend approval of the interlocal agreement with the City of Selma for shared code enforcement officer.
Council discussion?
No brainer. Great job, Ryan. I mean, thinking outside the box and getting this accomplished. So I know we've been looking for somebody for a while. I know some people in certain neighborhoods are going to be elated. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
This is a good example of community collaboration, which benefits both cities. So good job, guys.
Absolutely. I think this is a no-brainer, as Kelly said, and thankful that Selma worked with us as well. No further discussion, then can I get a motion?
Motion to approve interlocal agreement with the City of Selma for code enforcement services.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. On to yet another great collaboration, 7.6, interlocal agreement regarding sewer capacity in Wheeling between the City of Schertz and the City of Garden Ridge. Ryan?
Mayor and Council, so this item for consideration is an interlocal with the City of Garden Ridge, the City of Schertz for sanitary sewer conveyance or wheeling. This agreement represents an important step in implementing the city's long-term wastewater infrastructure strategy and supporting future development in areas planned for public sewer service, especially along 2252. The agreement allows Garden Ridge to utilize the City of Schertz sanitary sewer system to transport wastewater from portions of Garden Ridge to Cibolo Creek Municipal Authority CCMA wastewater treatment system. Because the CCMA's sewer collection system does not extend to Garden Ridge city limits, Schertz existing infrastructure provides the necessary connection for Garden Ridge and the regional wastewater treatment system. The agreement also provides the extension of upsizing in certain Schertz sewer lines to accommodate Garden Ridge projected wastewater flows, ensuring Schertz maintains adequate capacity for its own future. Under the agreement, Garden Ridge will receive up to 183,750 gallons per day of wastewater conveyance capacity, equivalent to 750 land use equivalents, or LUEs. Garden Ridge will be responsible for ensuring that all wastewater treatment entering the Schertz system complies with applicable pre-treatment standards and regulatory requirements. Prior to development, Garden Ridge will also pay the applicable Schertz sewer impact fees based on Schertz adopted fees to schedule to secure the necessary conveyance capacity. Beginning in the first year, Garden Ridge will pay an annual wheeling charge of 34 cents per estimated average daily gallon of flow, with the rate of increasing to 3% annually. For clarification, a wheeling charge is simply a fee paid to another utility for the use of its infrastructure to transport wastewater from one location to another. Actual wastewater flows will be metered and billing adjustments will be made as necessary based on measured usage and mutual agreements between the two cities. The agreement has an initial term of 20 years, providing long-term certainty for both communities while allowing either party to terminate the agreement with a 5-year written notice. City of Schertz approved this last night with that notion of 5 years in there. The agreement also includes standards for contractual provisions addressing amendments, mediation remedies, those kind of things. From a fiscal standpoint, the agreement establishes the framework for funding sewer impact fees, required infrastructure improvements, ongoing annual wheeling charges. These costs have been incorporated into the city's long-term wastewater utility financial plan and will be funded through the Water Wastewater Utility Fund as development occurs. Overall, this agreement provides Garden Ridge with a reliable and cost-effective regional transportation conveyance solution, supports orderly growth consistent with the comprehensive plan, and leverages existing regional infrastructure rather than requiring the city to construct its own independent sewer system and/or conveyance system. As I mentioned last night, City of Schertz already approved this interlocal agreement. City Council approval of this by the Garden Ridge City Council will authorize execution of the agreement and allow for the implementation of this regional conveyance partnership. Staff recommends approval of the interlocal with the City of Schertz for sanitary sewer conveyance services.
Council discussion?
Once again, great job. This is another no-brainer. We have a lot of projects at 2252 and 3009 that hinge upon this, having this sewer. So what we have now is inadequate, so that we know that. So, and I've already sent thank you notes to my friends over on the Schertz Council for passing that last night.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just want to say that, yeah, reiterate what Kelly's saying. I think this is the first step in future economic development, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's a much needed and much necessary vote tonight on this. So I want to thank Ryan for taking lead on this as well.
Again, somebody had mentioned earlier, what is the city doing to increase tax revenue? And this is one of the things that we need to do. We need to diversify our tax base, and we can do this. This sewer agreement allows us to move forward. If no other comments, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the interlocal agreement regarding sewer capacity and wheeling between City of Schertz and City of Garden Ridge.
And a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. The ayes have it. Thank you. On to 7.7, fiscal year 2027 proposed budget for the city of Garden Ridge.
These pretty quick here. This is this item presentation consideration for the proposed FY27 budget. Throughout the budget process, the City Council participated in a series of budget workshops to review department operations, capital needs, and financial priorities. In accordance with the city charter, the city manager and myself filed the proposed budget with the city secretary on July 30th, 2026. The proposed budget is based on the city's core 4 financial principles: maintaining a balanced budget, preserving a 9-month operating reserve, using conservative revenue projections, and continuing current service levels while making strategic investments in personnel and infrastructure. Going through here, the purpose of the budget, as we said, the annual operating serves as the policy document, the financial plan for us. Resource allocation establishes the foundation of how resources are allocated. Incremental change, strategic continuity. Each year's budget reflects incremental changes based on current needs, build on previous initiatives, and sets new programmatic directions for the future. Obviously, the budget is a tool for evaluating effectiveness of city services. And then the fiscal timing is October 1st through September 30th. This budget is developed collaboratively with input from city council, departments, and internal agencies. And then the proposed budget here is just the core principles, as I mentioned here. This provides a strong financial cushion for unforeseen, being 9 months. Reasonable revenue projections based on historical data. Adequate funding for employees' salaries and benefits, including 3% cost of living. And then an unassigned fund balance or reserve for emergencies, capital projects, one-time needs. And then the general fund, as proposed and filed, is $4,294,466, and then total expenditures $5,473,408. The difference is the transfer for the $1,178,000. That gap will be covered by the transfer from the reserve to solely fund capital projects. So if you take out the equation of the capital projects, we're still on the positive side of revenue versus expenditures. So this budget maintains the reserve, increased TMRS and health insurance costs, no new full-time positions. We put in funding for some reorganization to our public works, water utilities. The shared partnership was just passed with Selma for that funding. And then we looked at target market-based salary adjustments for administrative and utility staff. And again, here's an overview here of the showing the gap there, shortage covered by reserves. Any questions so far on the general fund? Okay. As I listed previously during our workshops, the police have the purchase and outfit of a new police unit, purchase of a half unmarked PD unit, $60,000 towards enhancements at Public Works facility. Once the CIP is finished, we'll start putting some dollars towards some streets totaling about 100,000. We're going to be replacing the HVAC in the community center, and then the loan to the water of 560, the Saws Interconnect project. As I mentioned previously, and as I mentioned tonight, through submitting the Texas Water Board's grant, if we were able to get that money, that would free up other dollars to do other capital projects within water, and or the general fund in that matter. Loan to water for the Schertz Garden Ridge Sewer Interconnect. Now that we have approved this interlocal, we're going to have to connect to Schertz underneath Door Lane on the railroad track. So we're going to have to connect, looking at about 350,000 to connect in this case, totaling 1,185,000. Questions so far, council? All right. The water fund is balanced. Total revenue expenditures 3,264,025. Water fund maintains an unrestricted fund balance, approximately 1.95 million, preserving the 9-month operating revenue for utility operations. The budget continues to support the delivery of safe, reliable drinking water and utility services while planning for the city's long-term infrastructure needs. Operational investments include handheld radios, chlorine bottles, scales, and a wastewater rate study. If you look, we've added some dollars to bring in a consultant like we're doing for the wastewater, for the water study. We're going to bring we'll have the same consultants do a wastewater rate study to help determine, once we have development along 2252, what that actual rate is, and then impact fees, what should be the impact fees. So the rate study will tell us what that's going to be down the road. Next slide. And then the water fund overview, as you can see, we're on the positive side from revenue versus expenditures there. And of course, a 9-month reserve. Any other questions here under capital here for water? Interest and sinking. This is obviously our debt portion that we pay. As you can see, we are making the total INS revenue, the 1,178,000 is going towards our debt payment. Total debt service payments, 1,174,000 with an ending fund balance of 30,738. Capital improvements, again, this is the area where we talked about the restricted, in regards to like buy and sell, the money that we could put towards that is under the street impact there, about 68,000. So that's money that we can put towards that road for future development. So this is restricted funds in this area that have continued to, I don't know the timeline, Robin, how long some of this fund's been growing?
Since before I've been here. We've never seen us use it. It's just been earning interest. So.
Yeah. And some of this we'll be able to use for the wastewater improvements as we move forward with development along 2252 as well. I always like to show the dollar bill. Here's what you get for your dollar. Obviously, the large part is police, so public safety, admin, court, debt payment, public works, community center, library, and capital. So that's what I like to show is your dollar and how it's broken up among the organization for our total $5,980,000,000. So as we move through, here's the budget calendar. I filed the budget, going through it today. This is the part of the presentation to give you an overview of what's been filed as part of the proposed budget, and then present the no new revenue and voter approval tax rate, which we'll go through on the next agenda item. And then we'll publish a notice for our public hearing, publish a notice for our tax rate. We'll be back here on August 26th for a special city council meeting for the budget public hearing. It says budget adoption, but again, council will just have to take some kind of action, and then we could actually adopt the budget through ordinance on September 2nd with the tax rate hearing, and then obviously adoption of the tax rate that same night as well. Any questions or comments? Again, as I mentioned, Councilman Mueller, that if you know, there's things between now and then on the budget hearing that council sees that want to be amended or tweaked or removed. Those things can be done in that time frame. So, any questions? Okay.
No questions?
There's no action. I just wanted to
Right.
make sure you all have an understanding of the proposed budget that's been filed. So.
Then we can move on to 7.8.
Oh, by the way, I forgot thank you, Robin, for putting this all together.
Yes.
So, thanks, Cindy. She did a wonderful job on the document again, the cover, everything. So, that's not through my creative process, nor the architect behind the budget being Robin. So, I have to say thank you to both of them.
Yeah, it's a great budget. It's
So.
very comprehensive. So 7.8, 2026, no new revenue, voter approval, and de minimis tax rate calculations. Propose a tax rate for the 2026 tax year.
Mayor and Council, this is the tax rate here, and we'll go through this real quick. So the tax rate calculations received on July 25th. Tonight is to discuss the tax rate. If proposed tax rate will exceed the no new revenue rate, take a record vote, schedule a public hearing, and vote to adopt the tax rate. We'll publish a notice on August 22nd, and then September 2nd, we'll hold the public hearing to adopt the budget and tax rate levy. Just as far as clarification, the no new revenue, it was formerly known as the effective rate and is generally equal to the total tax rate needed to raise amount of property tax revenue for the same properties in both tax years. Voter approval, which is what we're under now currently in this fiscal budget, known as the rollback, about the same amount of tax revenue was spent previous year day-to-day operations plus an extra 3.5%. Previously, it was 8% increase for operations and sufficient funds to pay debts in coming year. De minimis, that's what's created in SB2, only applies to certain taxing unities, and Garden Ridge does qualify. Tax increase elections for taxing units, they calculate a de minimis rate depend on whether the adopted tax rate is greater than or less than the voter approval rate and the de minimis. I know, it's a lot. Tax rates are comprised of two components, the M&O and the INS, interest and sinking. The city currently has debt obligations to pay. Therefore, the current tax rate is comprised of the M&O and then the interest and sinking. So right now, what we have, the 26 no new revenue rate is the 0.244789, and then the voter approval is the 0.254138. Adoption of the voter approval rate at 0.25, which is estimated to generate approximately $2.197 million in the general fund revenue while remaining below the de minimis rate. As you can see, it's a lot higher in the de minimis, and then the difference is the 0.009349. Including the tax rate, which funds this payment of the debt, the total proposed tax will increase by 0.000708 per 100. The M&O rate, which funds the functions of the general fund, will increase by 0.007290. The INS is the 000418 component. Here we have a breakdown what was adopted there, the 0.246, which was actually the voter approval rate last year, correct, Robin? And that actually decreased by a small percentage. So this year, the voter approval rate is at the 2.54138, which is that difference right now, the 0.007. So it's a very slight increase with going through the voter approval rate. Again, that's what's supporting the proposed budget that's been filed. So if you look over here, the difference, the 0.0078, it equates to the average price of home. So it's at 721. The proposed is 722, which is a difference of 1,333. The difference from last year for the average tax increase voter approve rate, it's about $59 from this standpoint per year, which is about $4.92 per month. At this point, staff is recommending the council adopt the voter approval rate of the 0.254138, which is 0.07708 higher than the adopted 25 tax rate of 0.246430. Obviously, public hearing on the tax rate after publishing the required notice, taxing units must hold one public hearing, and a quorum of the governing body must be present at the hearing. So, questions, Mayor and Council?
Any questions?
So tonight, we're just hearing what you're saying, and then I guess there's a public hearing after this before we do a vote on it, or is that the process, or?
Go ahead, Mayor, sorry.
No, tonight we are picking a tax rate.
Yeah.
And then that proposed tax rate will be discussed at the, open for discussion at the public hearing.
Budget is the current voter approval rate there. And I think, does it take a record vote tonight, or is it, okay, so, yeah, so we'll take a record vote tonight, and then obviously we'll have a public hearing for the tax rate on September 2nd. So,
Just to clarify, the action tonight is not approving a tax rate, it is proposing a tax rate.
yes. Thank you, Marissa. I had that in my notes, but
Yeah, good language. So no discussion, well then, can I get a motion?
I move to propose a property tax rate of 0.254138 per 100 valuation, set the required public hearing for September 2nd, 2026, and authorize publication of the required notices in accordance with the Texas Property Tax Code.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I've got to do a record vote.
record
Okay.
vote, sorry.
Sorry. Place one, I've got to do a record vote. Place one? Place two?
Aye.
Place three?
Yes.
Place four? And place five?
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, I'd like to thank Robin for putting
Yeah,
this
thank
together.
you both for all your hard work. So we move on to 8, citizen comment period. Not required to sign up, but you are required to sign in with the city secretary after speaking. Do we have anybody that's got anything to? Sharon, I don't even have to read you the rules. Right.
Okay, thank you. Sharon Stripling, 21729 Forest Water Circle. First of all, I want to tell Ryan and the city council, thank you for the code compliance person. Yay! Because we have been pushing for this since he came on here. I also want to say thank you to the council members that are doing the coffees on different days. I think those have been very beneficial. Now on to where the rezoning went. I think legally that's the right thing to do. I was totally in favor of it, but there were some issues that were brought up in there I think the city does need to address. The traffic I'm not so worried about. I've lived here 36 years. I've dealt with all these neighborhoods building and adding golf carts to the mix of going down the road at 20 miles an hour. So the city will deal with that. Drainage is an issue. Forest Waters is having a lot of trouble with it on Bat Cave Road, which y'all all know we've been dealing with after they repaved the road. So that's something we're really gonna need to stay on top of it because it'll probably get worse with the new neighborhood. And the other thing is the oak trees with the oak wilt. We supposedly have another case in Forest Waters. They're coming out next week, and oak wilt will demolish the oak trees in Garden Ridge. We had someone in Forest Waters go to get her trees trimmed. They told her not to do them even now. when we are allowing it. So I think the city ought to look at getting another opinion from an arborist on what our code is, and also we ought to make tree trimmers be licensed and get permits. So I think Oak Wilt will do our community in. So thank you all for all you do.
Thank you. On to 9, announcements on items of community interest. Anybody have anything they'd like to announce?
I just announced that, speaking of what Sharon brought up, is yes, I have my next coffee with the community on August the 22nd on a Saturday. Ms. Lynn has been kind enough to let me use the library, and I appreciate her for that, and it's going to be at 9 o'clock again. So I really like these, and like she's saying, I think a lot comes out of it with talking to the community. So I hope I can get as many people to come out and give us some feedback on some things. So thank you.
Kelly, looks like you're teed up to say something.
Chamber update. The new city partner mural is completed. It's over in Universal City, so if anybody's on Pat Booker Road, our logo is on the mural and on the new chamber office wall. So a local artist drew it up, and maybe I can get the picture on maybe at the next meeting put up. So they did a fantastic job. August 11th, 11:30 a.m. at Bluebonnet Palace will be the Chamber's first ever health and wellness luncheon discussion panel with physicians Premier and Schertz-Ciblo ER. And elected, and this is an important one, the elected officials reception, mark your calendars for November 18th, 6 p.m. Bluebonnet Palace. That's a big, big event. It gives you a chance, it gives a lot of the other council members a chance to get to know some of your fellow council members in other cities. So that's all I have.
Anyone else? We're good? Then we will move on to item number 10, executive session. The city council shall recess the open meeting and reconvene in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 to conduct a private consultation with legal counsel concerning the pending condemnation proceedings styled Outer Loop Utility LLC versus City of Garden Ridge, Texas, cause number 2026 CV0213 in County Court Number 1, Comal County, Texas. The city council may reconvene in open session to take any action deemed necessary as a result of this consultation. So we will convene in open session, reconvene. We will go into executive session at 8:13. Tired. Okay, item number 10 again. We have reconvened after executive session at 8:31. There's an action to be taken. Kelly, I think you're making a motion.
I move to authorize the mayor or the designee to approve and execute a pipeline easement agreement in substantially the same form as presented to the city council this evening in consideration of the proposed settlement amount presented to the city council during this evening's closed session.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. The ayes have it. On to 12, adjournment. There being no further business, the city council regular meeting is adjourned at 8:32 p.m.